Good morning. How are you doing? Good to see you. Oh, what a night's sleep I've had. Oh, what a night's sleep I haven't had. Toothache, awful. I've had it since before Christmas on and off, and it's getting worse. But I've got an appointment at the dentist's tomorrow. I'm going to see if I can get one today. So I'm feeling a bit tired, and that's unusual for me because I sleep well usually. But yeah, so here I am. This side. Anyway, there you go. But still, I'm here for you, dedicated to the cause. um, Absolutely. I was talking yesterday at a conference, I suppose, a kind of, I think they call them inset days because it was a group of teachers, really nice. Got to listen to somebody else talk about self-care and well-being and what have you, and then got to kind of do my thing, which is really good. And one of the things that I came up with for yesterday, which was new, I suppose. Well, it wasn't new. I suppose I've said it. I've just never phrased it in this way. Is for me resilience. Is all about control. How resilient you are is all about how much control you feel you have over many things, over your emotions, over your diary, over your home life. The more control you have, I think, the more resilient you feel. Because that sense of control, I think, is so important to us. Bearing in mind, there are some things we can't control. There are some things we just have to get onto. So as happens in the world often, I was thinking about control, and I think, you see what you focus on, don't you? There's a lot of people say that or something similar. If you focus on particular things, you start to see those things, and it's a bit like I was reading a piece of Martin Seligman research that was mentioned yesterday by myself and also by the previous speaker, Emma, and it was the Martin Seligman's research. Martin Seligman is the kind of father, I suppose, of positive psychology, and Martin Seligman was part of his research came to the conclusion that if you show gratitude, or I suppose this is gratitude, at the end of each day, think about the things that have gone well. If you do that, for the research said, if you do it for 3 months, I think, that eventually you start to rewire your brain differently after that sort of time frame, that you start to see all the positive things that are going on around you rather than the negative things, because we have this negativity bias, don't we? Emma was mentioning that yesterday. We have this negativity bias where we tend to see the negative things, and this is always apparent when I'm talking to students and practitioners. When I say, tell me what you're good at, tell me what your strengths are, tell me what you did well today, people struggle with that. But they don't struggle with, tell me what's gone wrong today, tell me what you're not very good at. They don't struggle with that. So there's something in that kind of, we can even take control of how our brains are wired. That's the point I'm making. By repetition of a particular approach starts to rewire our thinking. So, the more control we have, I feel, of all those different areas, the more resilient we feel. And then dotting through, and I'm sure this is all to do with the Matrix. As I'm thinking about all of this, up pops 10 useful time management tips. Now, I'm not a fan of time management. You can't manage time. You can only do your best with the time you have, because time just ticks over moment by moment without you being able to manage it in any way. You can only manage what you do with time. I know it's a subtle shift, but there you go. And it was this thing, Jolie Kerr in CNN Underscored. These things pop up, don't they? Because I read these things a lot. They pop up in this, when you go into Google and you open up a blank browser, it says you might like these things. And I thought this was really good. And it was, 10 kind of time management tips, and I've reframed that as, because this is what this does, 10 ways to kind of take control. And this is largely about work, but some of them are about home life as well. And they're 10 things that I've probably taught you about before. So the first one, brain dump to help organize your thoughts. Really important. As we go through the day, and indeed, if you've never tried to take control of your kind of sphere of responsibility, as I call it, all that stuff that you've got to do. If it's just all kept in your head and you've never tried to take control of that, then doing a brain dump into what David Allen would call a trusted system is really important. And when I think of taking a brain dump, I think I brain dump all day long. I write like little post-it notes and stuff. I've always got post-it notes kicking about, and I write little things on post-it notes and I stick them to the side. And that's kind of me brain dumping as I go. But you might not be able to do that, or you might not want to do it that way. That's fine. But you've got to get to the end of the day and brain dump. Get it all out your head and think, right, what am I going to do with this? What do I do with all of this stuff that's been buzzing in my head all day? These things that I must get onto that. I must do this thing. I must do that thing. I must find time to think about all those kind of things. You've got to get those out your head because you have to organize them in some way. So you need a daily routine, or a bespoke as you go routine, which is kind of what more mine is. But I do at the end of the day, collect all those post-it notes together, look at my notes page as I've been writing notes all day, just to kind of and ticking things off as I've gone. And there are some things that get left unticked, obviously, because you can't get everything done. So looking at all those things that you've kind of dumped out your head as you've been going through the day, that in that moment you didn't have time to analyze or think of, because obviously if you're going to work in the moment, deep work stuff, things are going to pop into your head while you're doing deep work. The best thing to do is not to go off and think, all right, well, that's popping into my head, I'll deal with it. It's just to make a note of it and go straight back to the deep work. The less time you spend out of that deep work task, the easier you're going to get back into it. So if you just quickly make a note and think, I'll get onto that later, happy days. You think, well, I'm not going to forget it now. I'm not going to forget it because it's one of my post notes to the side that I will look at later. And I'll do something with it then, back into the task. So brain dump to help you organize your thoughts. Do it daily. Do it as you go and do whatever works for you. And then the second thing was know your strengths and your priorities. Very, very important. And I think this is rooted in knowing your values. What's important to you? What are you good at? What are you not good at? How are they based in the things that you find important, and what are your priorities? What's the core? That takes a lot of thinking about. I'm not going to talk about that very much because that takes a lot of thinking about. I've talked about your workplace why before, and your life why. So know your strengths, and you'll find it hard to figure them out, because we do that negativity bias. So know your strengths, know your priorities. If you don't know what your priorities are, and in your job and in your life, based on your workplace why and life why, there will be go-to priorities. You think, yeah, that's always going to be doing those type of things that result in that type of outcome are always going to be my top priorities. If you've bottomed that out first, then it gets easier to prioritize, because if all you're doing all the time is trying to figure out from these 40 things which you need to do next, you're going to struggle. But if you know, well, I've always got to do these things first, maybe. And then after I've done those things that I've got to do first, because it's my job, then I need to do these things, or I like to do these things, or my preference is to do these things. You've got to figure that out first. You've got to figure out your hierarchy of priorities first, or you won't know where to start when you start to prioritize. And then once you've done that, use a technique called time blocking. Well, I've probably talked about this before. Use a technique called time blocking. Try and work in 45-minute to 1 hour blocks, so you can get that little break that you need every hour. So try and kind of block out time, and allocate yourself a task, ideally. Or sometimes what I do is I think, right, okay, I've got this big project, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to block out 4 afternoons over the next month to work on this project. And in the first entry that says work on this project, I'm going to list all the steps in that project. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I'm going to list all of the steps in this project, or as many as I can think of, as many as I know at this point in time. And then on that day, at that time, with that afternoon from 1 o'clock till 4 o'clock, or whatever it happens to be, I'm going to start on that list. I'm going to go into the notes part of my calendar where the task is, and I'm going to do the first thing, then the second thing, then the third thing. Then when I run out of time, because it's a big project, I'm going to cut and paste what's left into the next time slot. So I know I used to talk when I talk to social workers, and I remember a while back talking to social workers, and I would say break it down into small tasks, and then like allocate each task a time slot. They're like, oh, it's far too complicated because there are far too many little things. And that's where I hit upon this idea of actually blocking out time that says, work on Mrs. Jones's allocated case, allocated situation. Work on that for now. Um, and then you would list all the things you needed to do, and then you would just keep moving what was left of the list into the next time you're going to work on that. So you can do it that way rather than block out individual things. But use a technique called time blocking. One of the things that I kind of wasn't keen on that they said, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's their list, is make lists. Make lists. I mean, I do like making lists. I do like making lists of stuff. I do like keeping lists of things. I don't like to-do lists. And that comes to the next one on this list of these ways of taking control, which is integrate your to-dos into your calendar. So don't keep a separate to-do list. All of those things that you need to do should be in your calendar in one place. It's no good having a calendar with all your meetings and all that stuff in, but then having a separate to-do list. You've got to get those two things together. So everything that you need to do needs to be in your calendar, time blocked. Now, what's this making lists thing? Well, making lists, I think, for me, is something to do with when I'm preparing that lecture, that session. So this is about my job role, or when I'm planning on doing the garden. We renovated the garden last year. That was a great list making opportunity. When I'm doing that, what things do I need to consider? What have I found already? Links to websites, pictures of things. What have I found already? So I'd make a list about that. And then in the entry where it says, have a think about doing this or plan this, write this presentation, I'd say see list of things to consider in, because sometimes you don't want it all in your notes thing. Sometimes it's massive. And actually notes, I use Google Calendar and you can't put images and stuff into there or PDFs or whatever, but you can pull all those together into a folder or into a Word document or whatever. So see notes, see list of things in wherever you put that in your notes to find it. So there's a benefit to making lists to keep lots of information together about the same things. But don't have a to-do list. I've talked about research before that most things on to-do lists never get done. And the problem with a to-do list is you tend to pick off the things that are nice to do rather than the things that are important to do. So integrate those into your calendar. And then plan tomorrow plus 2 was the way that Jolie Kerr put this. Plan tomorrow plus 2. I like that. Plan tomorrow. You've got to plan. You've got to spend the last part of your day planning tomorrow. I've talked about that many times. They say plan tomorrow plus 2. I'd agree with that. I always meticulously plan the next day and have a reasonable look at the following couple of days and do what I can with that. And then on a Friday, remember this Friday is the most important day next week. So plan for next week. Be realistic about the time it takes to do things. Absolutely 100%. Remember the planning fallacy. We tend to underestimate how long large tasks take. So you've got to be realistic. And if anything, add in more time than you're going to need. And then the next thing is use that unclaimed time. Use that extra time that you allocated that you haven't used if you don't use it. Use that time productively. Use that time to do something else. Don't use that time to go champion. I can just kick back and relax. Well, maybe you could. Sometimes that might be acceptable. You have to think about that. You have to look at the other things that it do. But I love setting 2 hours aside for something and then discovering it only took me an hour and a quarter and thinking, all right, what's in tomorrow? What's in next week that I drag forward into now and do it now? Brilliant. Use unclaimed time. In writing about that, they say one thing which I really like. And they say another time management tool or a being control tool, I'd rather frame it, is never leave a room empty-handed. And I love that. If I'm going from here in my office to the kitchen, then pick up something and take it with me. There might be nothing, but there usually is. If I'm going from the kitchen to somewhere else, pick up something and take it there. It's a useful thing around the house. And then be flexible but disciplined is the penultimate one. And I think that's important. People say, oh, I know, but I couldn't possibly plan everything because lots of things are chaotic. Well, they are. And the plan only survives first contact. That's an army thing. I've mentioned that before. Be flexible but disciplined. So you've got to be able to flex your calendar. You've got to be able to find room to move things around. That's why slippage is really important. Slippage in the task, which is giving yourself more time in the element of the task, but also slippage in the kind of end date. You don't want to be leaving things till the last minute because you've got no room to be flexible then. So be flexible, but disciplined. So if you think, well, oh look, I was going to do that this afternoon, but I'd rather do this guffing about thing. Because actually I've got a fortnight before that thing's due. No, be disciplined and do it now. Get it out of the way, then it's done. So be flexible but disciplined. Stick to your plan. Stick to your plan because you must have planned it that way as being the most important thing that you could do with that moment in time. And then finally, build rewards into your day. We all work hard. Build rewards into your day. What are you going to do? Are you going to hang out till the afternoon and have slice of Christmas cake with a coffee when you've done all the tasks that you need to do? Are you going to do that? For me, sometimes it's like, right, if I get these things done, then I'm going to make myself a cup of tea and I'm going to play my guitar for 10 minutes. Little things like that just kind of just give you a little kind of well done pat on the back, So build rewards into your day. I call these things harbors, I suppose. Where's my harbors today? Where are my harbors? And obviously your harbors are things like your lunch break and that kind of thing. And longer term harbors are your holidays and all that kind of stuff, your weekends. They're the things you're aiming for. But build little harbors, little rewards into your day, little islands where you can just take a moment and feel good about what you've achieved. So there you go. Brain dump to help you get organized, to organize your thoughts, know your strengths and your priorities. Time block. Make those lists if you need to about things, but if it's a to-do list, try and integrate that to-do list into your calendar. Plan tomorrow +2. Plan for next week on a Friday. Be realistic about the time something takes and use up any unclaimed time productively. Be flexible but disciplined and build rewards into your day. There you go. Have a good, what day is it? Tuesday. I'm all over the place. I normally do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but here we are. It's Tuesday and I'm doing it. Have a good Tuesday. Go and sign up to my Patreon thing. Have a search for me, Stephen Mordew, Patreon. You'll find that. Go and sign up to that. There's all sorts of stuff on there, like guided meditations and the like. And I share stuff like this there as well. Go and give me a follow on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. If you go to shortsmedia.org, you'll find links to all that stuff, and it'd be really nice to kind of see you kind of come on board with what I'm doing. Thanks a lot. See you again very soon, maybe even later on in the week. Take care.